And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's sports. First off the bat, happy Halloween to everybody. No matter how you decide to participate in it this year, whether you're going to be a vendor, whether you're going to be a collector, or whether you're just going to turn off the lights and go into a back room so nobody knows you're home. However you decide to do it, we hope you have a good one. And certainly, if you have any leftover candy, I think Jared said that he would take it and, make sure that it didn't get wasted, because we know what Case does with his already. But we've got a fun show lined up for you today. We've got all kinds of news to talk about in the world of UofL women's sports, and I've got a full house today to discuss those things. I guess I'll start with Jared here. Jared, have you dried out and thawed out from Thursday night photo taking at women's soccer yet?
I finally dried out. It took a while to get dry. I had to open up the camera bag and lay out all the equipment. So that was, took a little bit more water than I thought it did. But it only hit the exterior, which is all right, as long as it doesn't get inside the lens or inside the body. Typically, if it takes a few drops, it's all right.
He was out there braving in at Lynn Stadium, taking pictures of the Cardinals, a contest out there. Case Hoskins in the house with us today, and Case proudly informed us earlier this week that he made sure and told them about raising the crosswalk from the new student housing to the Corber Center high enough so we don't have a repeat of what happens, quite frankly, very, very often over at the overpass on 3rd Street. Case, good job, sir.
Well, in the rendering, it's like a nice glass walk, like the one at EKU that already collapsed recently, and didn't look quite as structurally stable as an old CSX railway bridge as far as stopping a semi goes. So I just pointed out, we have issues with that on this campus, and they won't pay attention to the signs. So plan on them hitting it if it's possible.
And I suspect, based on what they rendered, that semis would have a little more luck against this one. Yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't quite be the can opener that the
I just don't want to see Haley Van Lith walking across, and all of a sudden here comes a big semi, and no, we don't want this. No, put the sucker up there 20, 30 yards, whatever.
Like I said, it's kind of a tight fit there. Because of the power lines that have to go over Eastern Parkway that are only so high, so you can't make the crosswalk too high, but you can't make it too low. So got to fit it right in there.
That's why you're an engineer, and that's why you guys do what you do. Figure it out. Also got Jeff McAdams with us today. Jeff, who proudly informed me he is still in shorts, even though it's freezing in the metro Louisville area. And I'm now convinced that Jeff is part polar bear, and I'm taking him to the Louisville Zoo and see what I can get for him. There you go.
Yeah, I do have a nice little protective layer of blubber, so it works. So.
I don't know. I had to turn on the space heater this morning. That's how cold I was. But anyway, we'll get right on into it. As we normally start out with, we'll bring in Case Hoskins to give us scheduling and Twitter information. Case, take it away.
Yeah, so today Louisville is going to be taking on Virginia Tech in football here in just a few hours at 4 p.m. That one's on the ACC network. I'll have to put a pause on working on the giant amass of leaves that I have in the yard to watch that one. And then since field hockey and soccer and volleyball have all wrapped up their seasons, men's and women's soccer, going into postseason play. Field hockey is, I think they won't start until Friday. Oh, I lied. Men's soccer has not wrapped up their season, by the way. I think field hockey won't start until Friday. As the number 1 seed, they'll get a bye from Thursday and advance straight to the semifinals. So they'll get underway at some point against an opponent to be named later on Friday in Durham. And men's soccer will take on Notre Dame in Notre Dame on Friday at 7 p.m. The women's soccer tournament will start. Let's see if any of the teams that I have it on their schedule. Yep, That one will start on November 10th, so that one's still a little ways out. And we did confirm. We'll talk a little bit about it more when we get to the women's soccer portion of the show. But they will be in that tournament despite the loss to North Carolina. For Twitter accounts, I tweet is at best case scenario. I strongly debating deleting Twitter for the next week just for my mental health, but we'll see. Probably won't do that, and then I'll just spend too much time scrolling. Jared tweets is at Mr. Anderson Jared. As always, follow him for great live shots of sports home athletic events that he's fortunate enough to get to be a part of, and even when he has to stand out in the terrible weather. Polly tweets is at Cardinal Couple. He had some good tweets from the soccer game the other night. It was an exciting game for a long time, and then it wasn't very quickly all of a sudden. And Jeff tweets is at Jeff McAdams and at Card Couple Radio. So that's it. Scheduling a Twitter right there.
And I just saw this morning, to give you kind of an update on it, when they get ready to have the ACC Field Hockey Championships, they have changed the venue, guys. This was originally scheduled to take place on the Duke campus. Duke has requested that it not take place on their campus, and so they are moving this to Karen Shelton Stadium and in Chapel Hill on the UNC campus. So that just broke earlier today. So interesting. I don't know if Duke wants to, basically they haven't had the best season. Maybe they don't want to do it. I don't know. They didn't give Traeger a shot at it from what I can tell, unfortunately. But it's going to just down the road, down at Chapel Hill. So that update there, guys. And then while we're at it, while we're talking about things, as we get into the sports aspect of the show, we might as well start out with field hockey, the most recent of the Cardinals to take the field on the women's side. They made a trip to Syracuse, looking to clinch an undefeated season in the ACC field hockey, and boom, fell flat on their face, unfortunately. Losing 2-1 to a, at the time, 500 Syracuse team. It was 3-3. Louisville just kind of seemed out of sorts, guys, for the most of the game. Could not get any type of offensive continuity rolling until very late. And it was cold up there. Sure it was, but our people have played in cold conditions before. And both teams had to play in those conditions. It was actually Syracuse's first home game of the field hockey season. How about that?
Interesting.
So they rolled in their home opener and senior day all on the same day. Interesting stuff on that. The case had the write-up on it this morning. Coach Sowry wasn't too pleased with it, but she said there were some opportunities for learning there.
Yeah, it's kind of what Jeff and I mentioned, that if you lose one of these games in an undefeated season, it is going to take some pressure off. She didn't point that out, but she has to know it. She probably saw how tight her team was, especially when they came out and couldn't perform at all when Syracuse made the minimal effort to prevent them from running their standard offense. She did point out, like you said, that there are some learning opportunities. It's a great chance for them to take this next week and see on film if this is what a team is going to do, which you're going to play North Carolina again. You might play Duke again. You're going to play these really strong teams that have now played against you, and you won't quite have that same advantage that you had the first time. And so you'll be able to look at that on film and say, well, this is what a team is going to try and do to stop the offense we like to run. What are we going to do next? And we did see Louisville got some really good chances late in the game. There's the 3-minute onslaught there at the end, but could only get one goal out of it. And so did fall 2-1 there.
Yeah, Syracuse basically just drew out the roadmap for how to beat UofL. If other teams can replicate that, then, that's it makes it that much easier for them. So.
Just a strong defensive effort by the Orange, obviously. And Jared, they did a really good job of shutting down Meche, Mercedes Pastor, in this game, too. They had her kind of bottled up and frustrated most of the game.
Yeah, you take out the hot hand in your offensive leader, and then the rest of the team has to adjust and figure out who's going to be the person or the persons to step up and fill that role. And I don't think anybody was able to find an answer, which that's all right. I think, as Case mentioned, gets the pressure off. But it's okay that a player may have a quiet game. It happens to everybody. And I think that may be a promising sign that Meche will bounce back and have a strong ACC tournament.
Certainly can't keep her down too long. She's so competitive. But the Cards, despite the loss, take the number 1 seed in the ACC Field Hockey Championship by the fact that they had beaten North Carolina, who finished with the same record as them. But the Cards won that in head-to-head competition, which means Louisville will get the first day off and advance directly to the quarterfinals in that, guys.
In addition to the head-to-head, Louisville actually holds the conference percentage tiebreaker as well, because North Carolina's game with Boston College, like basically everyone's game with Boston College except UofL's, was canceled. Yeah, Boston College has played one game this year.
They're kind of the great unknown, aren't they? One of the things that I think will be fascinating to Cardinal fans to find out here, it looks like they'll be playing the winner of the 4 versus 5 seed, okay, on the second day of competition down there, which right now looks like it could be Virginia, it could be Wake Forest. I don't know, guys, when you think about it, which one of these two do you want? We played Wake Forest in a monsoon and beat them in Winston-Salem. Virginia, a very tough competition, always pretty good in field hockey. We'll just kind of take it around the table real quick. Jeff, if you could pick your druthers, which one do you want to go up against?
Somebody not from the ACC.
William and Mary.
As long as available,
William and Mary's not bad either. So, I would.
Well, we can't just go taking on everybody.
I would say, I don't know. I would probably pick Wake Forest. But it's a tough. I mean, it's almost a coin flip at that point. I mean, that's the reason that looking at a 4-5 seed there.
I kind of think it'd be interesting to see what we could do against Wake Forest on a field that wasn't, monsoon conditions.
Right. Yeah. No. And that actually does kind of factor into what I was saying a little bit, what I was thinking a little bit. I too would like to see what that matchup looks like in better conditions. Yeah.
Jared, devil's advocate, though, they did give us a good game in those sloppy conditions, and we did beat Virginia as well. Like I said, the only team that's beaten us has been North Carolina. So, out of the two,
Syracuse.
Which one would you choose to play, Jared?
I'm still in the same boat as Jeff there. We didn't get to see the true strength of either team in that game against Wake Forest with the monsoon. Everybody was just kind of taking it at a different pace. The rain was slowing people down. And as we could see, the ball was dying quite often too on the field. So we didn't get to see much fast breaks. It was very ball control, possession heavy type game. It's kind of getting close back to the old, like, 4-corner style basketball back from the old days where it's kind of like a keep away at that point and just hope nobody scores because the ball was dying so bad. But Virginia, especially in the last few years, has been a very strong team. I think they won the ACC back in 2017. Since then, North Carolina's been the team to beat. But Virginia's also been one of the highest seeds in the NCAA tournament for several years, including being the 3 seed last year. They made it to the Final Four. Wake Forest didn't make the 18-team tournament. I think our chances are a little bit better against Wake Forest.
We'll take on the Wake case. Are you going to make it a full house in agreement here, or have you got another point to take on this?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wake as well. In a field sport like field hockey or like soccer, poor weather conditions really are the great equalizer. They can greatly benefit a weaker team. I think that's what led to kind of the closer game between Louisville and Wake. I think that Louisville is a much better team than Wake. Alternatively, I think they're a much better team than Syracuse too, but we saw how that went yesterday. But Louisville did beat the brakes off of Virginia twice, or just once, and then followed it up with another win. But Virginia probably not particularly happy about that. Would like to get some more revenge. So rather see Wake because I think the Cards definitely have a better chance and less bad blood, I would say, from this season in particular.
It all takes place starting on Thursday with the first 3 games, and then Louisville goes into action on Friday.
Yep. I think we lost Polly.
May have.
Polly.
Sorry about that there, guys.
Yep.
I had to
There you
mute myself just a second there.
Okay.
But I was saying nasty words about no. I think one of the things that I was interested in, just to kind of close out on field hockey yesterday, is when it came down to the very rare penalty shot, and we haven't had a chance to try one of these all season long, the Cards, but they awarded one to Syracuse. I'm never really sure why those get called, for what happens, something inside that little small box, I suppose, not being up on my field hockey rules, but the Cards switched out Hollenbar. In came Sam Menrith. She's a specialized goalie for that kind of thing, the best I can determine. But it didn't quite work for her, Jeff.
We had one against Virginia.
Yeah. So
Medici scored the first goal against Virginia, was a penalty stroke.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say necessarily that Sam Menrith is a specialist for that, but she is better at it than Holland Barr is. That's been an acknowledged thing from Coach Sowery, so thus the switch out there. What I do know of this, and my limited understanding of field hockey rules here, so I'm not an expert on this, is that for particularly egregious fouls, they can award a stroke. But I think what happened here, and this is a guess, I don't know this for sure, is that we already had a player on the sidelines on a green card. And I think this was in lieu of putting a second player over there, although I believe they can do that as well. So I'm not sure on the rules on that, but I believe that was the case here.
Just the differential and distance between the goalkeeper and the player shooting. I think it's a chance of where you're going to score 4 out of 5 times. It was an unfair advantage to the Cards, but I can say that being the blatant homer that I am. Anyway, we'll go ahead and leave it at that. And anything else on field hockey, guys? Anybody got any other comments they want to make on it?
Nope.
I'm hearing nothing in the group, so
just prepare for the ACC tournament and don't take this week off and get lazy.
Yeah, and if you want to watch good field hockey, watch this tournament because it's going to be, as it always is in the ACC.
Yeah, it's on the ACC network too. So if you are not doing anything Thursday, get yourself a big old bowl of chili and some popcorn and sit down and watch some field hockey on the ACC network. Hopefully they'll be good announcers.
If BC doesn't play tomorrow, are they going to let them play in the tournament on one game?
I guess. I don't know.
They're the great unknown. How do you scout a team that's played one game? What do you do?
Who gets the tiebreaker between them? I guess it doesn't matter because it would matter because they don't play each other. It's not a play-in game. It's a bye for the top seed. Who would get the tiebreaker between Duke and Boston College?
And here's another thing too. With Duke saying, "Hey, we don't want to play this thing on our campus," is there more going on with the Duke program that we don't know about right now? Like possibly some COVID outbreak or something? There's an intriguing possibility there.
I'd guess that was probably a university decision and not a program decision.
Well,
it doesn't mean
maybe
it's
so.
a Duke field hockey issue. It could just be a Duke student body issue too.
Okay, and that's possible as well. So anyway, but kind of interesting.
Paul's trying to put conspiracy theories out there.
I am. I'm always working on something like that. I think that there was a Pam Buston, decided to take on Karen Shelton on a one-on-one shootout. She lost. Karen says, "Okay, I'd take the tournament, baby. You lose it." Anyway, would have liked to see that between those two. But so best of luck to the Cards as we move on now to little women's soccer, which took place Thursday night in a cold, rainy, windy Lynn Stadium down on Floyd Street, where the Cards brought in number 1 in the land, North Carolina. The Cards came out with a purpose. They played hard. They held them to a scoreless first half. Louisville didn't score either. And then lo and behold, they started it out and got the first goal for Louisville in the second half, putting them up 1-0. Unfortunately, that kind of awoke the sleeping giant, you might say. The Tar Heels responded for 3 goals to take the W Thursday night. Jared, you were out there. Just kind of break down the scenario on what you saw.
I think they were too busy celebrating. I'm not going to blame Amina for her slide and celebration. She's a senior playing her final game at Lynn Stadium, just scored against the number 1 team in the country to take the lead. Give her the celebration. But after that, I think the team was a little too hyped up and happy about that goal that they fell asleep when the ball was put back in play and North Carolina found the equalizer like it's nobody's business. And you can't take a break against a team that good. And from there, momentum was lost. There's a little bit of shock in there that they tied it up so quick, and from there it just went downhill.
Case, being the soccer aficionado that you are, you were able to watch some of that. I'm thinking that you would have some opinions on the contest as well.
Yeah, like Jared mentioned, you can't lose focus like that, especially with North Carolina having such a close shot just before Amina's goal. Any time that you can take the lead in an upset bid, you cannot give up the equalizer less than 30 seconds later. The best time to score is right after you've been scored on, and North Carolina showed exactly how and why to do that. It was dangerously close to the person who received the pass being offsides, and then also dangerously close to the person they passed it to being offsides, but it wasn't reviewed. It didn't matter. I think that North Carolina was ultimately going to score again to equalize anyway, whether it was going to happen right then or whether it was going to happen a little bit later. I think that Louisville's only hope basically for this game was going to be to hold on to try and tie with the ferocity that North Carolina was playing with in the second half. So like I said, they equalized less than 30 seconds later. They carried that momentum, jumped to take the lead in just 3 minutes, and then Louisville couldn't really get anything else going for the rest of that second half before North Carolina put it away. Their second and third goals. The second one you couldn't even be mad at. I mean, when somebody just hits a rocket like that from 25 yards, what are you going to do?
That was a laser, wasn't it?
And then the third goal, as soon as the ball bounced out on the third goal, I think it was off of a corner kick. As soon as it bounced out and it was right at the top of the box, her name Taylor Otto. As soon as she touched the ball, I was like, "Well, that one's going in." It was just one of those situations where, when a ball is awkward like that and it finds its way to a talented team at the top of the box, you're usually not going to miss opportunities like that. And that really iced it for Louisville, who played pretty well. I mean, they held North Carolina to just 14 total shots, and only 4 of those were on goal. Ultimately, 3 of them went in, but like I said, 2 of them were just outstanding shots, and the equalizer was just wide open 1-on-1. It's tough. I think we did the math, or I did the math a little bit, and then we talked it out and finished everything up right before the show started. Louisville's in. As far as we can tell, they're in the ACC tournament regardless of what had happened.
Barring us
Thursday?
misunderstanding these rules.
Unless we're just complete fools, Louisville's in. The ACC broadcast had noted that if Louisville won, they were in. Well, if Louisville tied, they were also guaranteed to be in. And based on our understanding, Louisville's loss, they're still guaranteed to be in, just because of the great lead they had built up starting so strong in the ACC, and then that key win over Virginia Tech is, I think, going to be the decider. So they're going to get another opportunity to see what happens in the ACC tournament. It's going to be against North Carolina or Florida State, most likely. An outside chance that they are going to play Clemson. If Pitt and Virginia Tech and Duke all lose, which is extremely... Actually, if all of them lose... Louisville would not play Clemson either. They'd play Notre Dame again, the 4th seed. I don't see that happening, but it could. Or Virginia, I guess, the 4th seed. Yeah, Notre Dame's the 5th seed.
Yeah, and Jared, as we look at it, of course, the Cards' regular fall schedule was done, there are still many teams that have Sunday games to play here, as UNC and FSU tied with 21 points. Clemson in second with 12 points. Virginia has actually moved up to third now with 13 points, or I guess fourth, yeah, with 13 points. And then you've got the bottleneck, Louisville, Notre Dame at 12. A chance if Duke can beat Miami, a chance for them to jump over the Cards here. A chance for Pitt to tie the Cards at 12 points if they can beat Wake Forest in their final game. There's a lot of intriguing possibilities here, Jared. I'm not so willing to say we're in just yet. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think we need to really bring out the spreadsheet, do the math to see if there's that possibility that the Cards aren't in. I think because we were kind of discussing a little bit beforehand, just off the quick math, it appears they're in. Could finish as low as the 8th seed. I kind of would prefer to play Clemson just because that's a team we haven't played this year, but we also found a way to beat Clemson last year, so we have the game plan to do it again this year. We didn't have a lot of success against North Carolina. We played well against Florida State, but offensively there was just nothing going up. We just had a great defensive match, and Gabby had a stellar match there in goal. So I think our best chances would come against Clemson. Excuse me. It's just hard to see Duke not beating Miami, who's gone winless this year, 0-8 overall, 0-7 in terms of conference play. So really, what it's looking like is the Cards will either be 7 or 8 playing Florida State and North Carolina, which I don't really like the odds of either of those this year. But I think when you look at logistics, North Carolina's only given up 3 goals this year. We were fortunate to have one of them. They've scored 23 goals this year. That's a ugly differential. Florida State's been a little bit closer, and we played well against Florida State in normal weather conditions that didn't include pouring down rain. So I think if you break down the math and the logistics, I would much prefer to play Florida State over North Carolina.
Let me ask you this, too, real quickly. Were we surprised to see Macy Whitsett run back out onto the field after what appeared to be a very serious knee injury the game before?
Yeah, it was a bit of a shocker. She wasn't in the starting lineup, but when they announced her coming in as one of the reserves, one of the substitutions there, I thought maybe I misheard Delbert at the time because I figured Maisie may have been out for quite some time with that injury. So I think it was nice to see Maisie find a way to bounce back and the injury not be severe to the point that she couldn't play. The knee was taped up all over the place and to help keep her stability and able to move up and down the field. So I was happy to see Maisie there, although she did not look at full strength.
Yeah, they had her out there for limited moments of time as well, so maybe not fully back yet, but certainly with a few more days now to recover before they head to the WakeMed Soccer Complex in Cary, North Carolina, which is kind of down there near Winston-Salem, I think, if you look at the map of North Carolina, in that area anyway. So best of luck to the Cards as they get ready to do that. Another season ended, at least the fall, for another sport, and that's volleyball, who ended their fall regular season up in Three River City, Pittsburgh, where they pulled off a memorable and certainly fun 4-set win over the Panthers. Jeff, you had to be just thrilled over that one.
Yeah, they ended I think it was a 38-game win streak for the Panthers in Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. That was a big win. I will say, ACC standings are weird in volleyball this year because of the pod system they were in. Pitt is tied for 7th in the final standings in the ACC, which is very, very unusual. It's really just kind of bizarre. But yeah, it was a good win. Pitt is a good team, and you could see that when we were playing it. They still have a lot of power, a lot of blocking. Maybe a little off from last year from what they were, but they're still a good team. They have to respect them. Wrapped up the season. We played them twice. We lost the first one, won the second one. It's a tough environment to play in, and even when it's mostly empty, like it was, that's still going to be tough to play in. So, um, congratulations to the volleyball team for having a good, let's say, first half of the season, since we're expecting them to play in the spring. Wrap up the season 5-2 in fourth place in ACC.
Let me ask on this too, real quickly. Are they going to continue the pod format in the spring? Because to be quite honest with you, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. So the expectation in the spring, and of course I'm going to say expectation because obviously with the way things are, there's still possibility for changes. The expectation is that the the conference schedule in the spring will be a continuation of what was done in the fall, but almost the reverse of it. The expectation is that, for example, Louisville would not play any of the other teams that were in its pod. So we would not play Pitt, Notre Dame, Syracuse, and Boston College again in the spring because it's a continuation and we've already played them for this extended season. So in some respect, the pod system will have an impact on the spring, but almost the reverse of it. That we won't be playing in this pod of death in the north. That we'll be playing some of these other teams. So I'm sure Boston College is really happy about that.
You call it the Tide Pod, huh?
Yeah. Let's point out Boston College is when you look at the standings in the ACC, they're sitting at 0-8, right, which is last in the ACC. But they're a good team, right? They just ran up against a buzzsaw of a pod. So.
As if it wasn't bad enough up there, with all the other sports they have up there having to cancel games because of COVID. Yeah. Then look at their volleyball schedule and they're like, holy cow, when did we join the major leagues? Look at this.
Yeah. Well, and you got some other weirdness in the standings as well. Florida State at 1-3. First of all, they had to cancel 4 games. That's crazy. But also for them to come out with a 1-3 record is bizarre for Florida State. They're usually a very, very good team. They must be really off. I didn't get to watch any of theirs this year, so I haven't seen them play.
Let's go through some mid-season accolades then, and I'll let you think on this one a little bit, Jeff. I'll go to Jared first on this. Jared, give me your mid-season most valuable player in volleyball.
For UofL or the ACC as a whole?
I'm going to go UofL. Let's not get the whole league involved in it yet. Let's just stay local with it.
Okay. Yeah, I got to go with Aiko. I thought Aiko's had a great season. She's had some competition on who could be most valuable player. I think Amaya Tillman could give her a nice running. I think as of right now, Maya's listed as second in terms of blocks per set, blocks per match, blocks overall. So, and that's looking at national rankings, not just UofL rankings. So Amaya's helped keep the defense in it from the get-go this year. She's kind of been the player that broke out and may have gone well above our expectations this year, but I think it's still been Aiko just overall consistent day in, day out to help carry the team.
Going to, you may have prefaced my next category here, most improved player. You spoke a lot about Amaya. Has anybody improved more than her, though, from last year?
No, I'll give most improved player to Amaya. If you're looking at the basis of most improved players, looking at a player that was on the team last year compared to this year, absolutely. If you're looking at where a player stood and just what our expectations were them last season, whether it was with another school or high school, I think you could put Anna DeBeer in the running. But if you have like a rookie of the year, freshman, however you want to title it, I'd put Anna DeBeer there.
That was going to be my third one. Is the
you keep getting ahead of him.
Man, I'm
Jared's over here reading my mind here, guys. I'm getting a little worried about here. What's going to happen in the 8th race at Churchill?
It's not going to get run. We're all going to be watching football.
That's true. They may. No, they won't cancel because of football. They never. But anyway, so yeah, and I think De Beer is probably going to be the unanimous choice amongst us, unless Jeff has another thing to bring up as far as freshman of the year for the Cards. Case, I'll throw it by you. I know you don't watch a lot of volleyball, but I know there's some interest in the sport for you there. Your MVP?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this while Jared was saying it's always kind of boring to pick the obvious answer for MVP, but it is the player that the team would not be the same without, and I think this year that's Aiko. That's kind of presumptive because last year I would have said the same thing about Melanie McHenry until she went down and Louisville almost didn't lose a step, at least in the short term.
So they lost 4 out of 5 right after it. So,
But overall.
Yeah, overall, I agree.
They ultimately played really well.
Right.
They finished pretty well. I do remember somebody Texas.
So if you look, it's funny because if you look at that season in kind of those 3 sections, you see with Melanie McHenry, you're like, yeah, she's obviously the MVP. This team is nothing without her. And then the second section, or maybe the Notre Dame game, you're like, wow, they're actually playing really well without her. And then right after that, you're like, oh, yeah, no, definitely not the same without Melanie McHenry. And then they in the game on that in the season on that insane run. But I do think it's Aiko. I don't think that the team has the follow up this year like they did last year to be able to replace her if something were to happen. So I'd say she's definitely the most valuable player on the team.
Any thoughts on most improved?
I've really liked I think it's Amaya as well, but I've really liked the increased consistency that we've seen out of Tori Dilfer. We really like to have setters at UofL that you can just depend on to do the right thing all the time. I think she's performed really well in that role this year, making better decisions in the limited matches that I've been able to see, and stats that I've been paying more attention to. Not so many attempts that don't go anywhere this year. Definitely, I think she's been a really much more consistent player.
And do we bring on De Beer for the most improved player? Or, I mean, the newcomer?
Well, I don't know who else you'd pick.
Yeah, it's pretty simple there. I'm going to agree completely with your picks right down the line, 1, 2, 3. I do think that Tori Dilfer was a little better than last year, but just how important she was to the team this year so far has been very impressive to me. She missed a game. Fortunately, they had somebody step in and do a wonderful job for her while she was out. But when she came back in, you could see maybe, I think, a little more comfortability within the squad when she was back out on the floor. And now we go to you, oh volleyball guru.
Yeah, I in general I agree. The only difference I would say is maybe on MVP you maybe put Tori up there as the setter, as kind of, if you think of it as the quarterback of the team, you kind of look at her. She did have a significant improvement over last year. Last year she was a good setter that would get a solid set with out of a solid pass. This year she's been more like really good, either really great sets, amazing sets, or a good set out of a mediocre or bad pass. And that's, the opportunity to handle some transition, the transition offense on that a little cleaner, a little better, and get some amazing passes out of it. I think I probably would pick Aiko as MVP, but man, it's close between those two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think other teams also really saw that improvement. We saw with Katie George and Wilma Rivera that opposing teams really try to take them out of it, hit towards them. We didn't really see that so much last year with Tori Dilfer because they didn't really need to worry about taking her out to get Louisville out of their offense. But this year she did see a little bit more focus defensively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most improved for you?
Yeah, I got to go with Amaya. She was a good player last year, but man, she was amazing this year. In the middle, almost eclipsed, I think, Anna Stevenson. The fact that we're talking about her so much and haven't even mentioned Anna Stevenson yet. Anna is a very, very good middle blocker. She was at Auburn before she came to join us. She is a very good middle blocker for us now. From an improvement perspective, though, Amaya this was her coming out year, her coming out party. She went from being a good player to being just dominant, and it's mentioned near the top of the rankings in blocks per sets is an impressive mark to reach.
And any other newcomer besides Anna that you might consider for their?
Yeah, the only person that would even be in the discussion would be Aiden Bartlett at DS. But I mean, it's De Beer. I mean, she's how many freshman of the week honors did she get in a shortened season? She's got some power. I've pointed out she will get better as she learns to target a little better, which is scary that she's likely to get even better than she. I'm scary for other teams that she's likely to get even better than she is already. She went out finished out this fall season on an impressive mark on 22 kills up at Pitt.
Yeah,
She did. I mean,
22.
holy cow. I mean, that was a long match, but still, it was pretty impressive.
So I think it's safe to say that everybody here likes the beer. Okay, good deal.
Give me a good stout.
I like my cold. Yeah, a good pale ale for me, very cold. All right, guys. Taking on over, let's talk a little bit about women's basketball. We get a chance to finally discuss some things with them. First off the bat, the announcement that right across from where the Cards practice over at the Huber Center, there's going to be a great student housing facility built. As Case mentioned earlier, he personally designed the overpass. And
it's funny because the overpass is not even a part of the project that I'm working on. It's not part of the Cooper Center project. It's only part of the dorm project. Funny construction quirks.
Get out there with your tape measure or ruler or whatever you got to, Case. And there's plenty of semis parked over where the thing is going. Maybe you could have them do some test runs. Maybe. Never know about that. The exciting stuff there.
So where actually is it? They're saying it's across from the Cooper Center, but so I was initially thinking the open field where the silos used to be, but I don't think that's it.
No, it's directly across from the Cooper Center.
No, it's right across.
They're tearing down the existing building there.
Street is,
yeah, it's in that little circle thing coming down from Eastern Parkway, right?
Yeah, if memory serves correctly, there's a road that runs right into Floyd there that cuts off of Eastern Parkway.
Right.
And I think there's like a little small business there. So I guess they're going to close that road then? Is that the thinking, maybe?
I don't think so. I think it will go inside
I think it will go inside of Hahn.
Hahn Street, H-A-H-N, yeah.
Yep. So the buildings won't actually be, if I remember correctly, or they might actually extend Hahn down. Like I said, not working on the dorm project, but I think they might actually not be centered across from each other.
Yeah, it looks like they'll be a little offset.
Yeah, like the walkway will be in the center of the Cooper Center and then like the end of the dorm.
Right.
But very exciting things, not only for growth and construction on the campus, but hey, Jared, this couldn't really hurt recruiting too much either for lacrosse and women's basketball, could it now?
Oh, no. Say you're in a state-of-the-art building for a dorm that you're going to share with a couple other programs right there on campus by your training facility. It's going to be one of those first things you see off the interstate. I thought when this probably goes back to the George days, but when they designed all these nice fields and facilities for athletics right up against I-65 so everybody driving by could see it, I thought that was a great look in itself. It's a welcome to UofL and look at all of these strong facilities we have, and this is just an extension of that. The picture is kind of funny because they show all these people gathered around and hanging out here and there, when in reality, since it's going to be a dorm for student athletes, this is usually
primarily
more security.
Yeah,
right. But this isn't something that they make it almost look like it's going to be a hangout spot for everybody. But as we've seen with some of the student athletes housing before, there's a little extra security. I know when it came to minority and men's basketball was there, they had some of the fingerprint scanners and stuff, and football has a couple tighter things when it comes to their dorms. So you figure that you're going to have a little bit of that again, just with the student athletes, is the coaches want to make sure they're staying responsible, not doing anything stupid in the dorms, making sure you don't have crazy fans that are going over there and harassing them throughout the day. So I think the building itself is still going to look cool, but I think the access inside will be a lot more limited than what they reveal.
I think, honestly, guys, I'm the most happiest of all, though, for Liz Dixon and all. tell you the story why I was headed down to campus last winter to do an interview at the Corber Center, and it was very cold, and I'm walking down the sidewalk. She came barreling by me like a freight train, and she stopped and said, I can't top cold going inside. Boom, gone.
I
So,
get it.
Liz, I'm happy for you, girl. You can now make that comfort walk from your dorm over to the practice facility. And I bet it adds 3 points to her game easily, no doubt. And also, Jeff Walls held a teleconference where he discussed many things going on with the program right now. One of the names that he brought up that I found very, very encouraging was the play of Olivia Cochran. Olivia Cochran, one that we've looked forward to coming on campus. Certainly wondering how she would fill a role on the Cards team on that front line. It sounds like Olivia is just tearing them up on campus, Case, and could give Liz Dixon some serious consideration for playing time.
Well, I think that's what Jeff Walls is always looking for, right? He's never been shy about substitution patterns, and the more players that he has that are fighting for time just means the more he can wear down the opponent with quality subs. I don't think that anybody's going to be upset with that.
You know, Jeff, one of the things that we've always talked about during the Walls era is it's not so much who starts the games, but it's those final five that are out there in a close game. But if you look at this roster, you can go from 1 through 12, and you don't lose too much in ability, do you?
Yeah, that's the amazing thing, and it's been the case in UofL women's basketball for I think a few years. You could largely say that. I think it's becoming even more so as we go forward and continue to get a higher caliber of recruit. And yeah, it's you almost want to. If you put yourself in other team's shoes, you kind of see, oh, they're putting in some subs. Great. Oh, wait, it's so and so. Oh, they're going to be just as tough on us. So we've had Mikasa Robinson coming in off the bench for the most part in recent years, and she's, she would be an attack Yorkie if she were an inch shorter, right? And that's gonna wreak havoc on people when they go out there. So, yeah, it's gonna be exciting to watch them, I think, this year.
I do agree with that 100%. One of the things I'm also pretty excited about, too, is that I've heard great things about the Smiths, Alana and Kiana, and Walls made mention of both of them as well. Two who have not been on the court for us yet, but both who have major D1 experience. In addition, Alana had some JUCO experience. Jared, that's some incredible depth there just to bring in if they don't start right.
Yeah, you got plenty of players. If someone you've got out there isn't performing well or having an off game, or with this pandemic, if you take the risk, somebody may have to sit out for a few games as they recover. You can go from the bench, but this time you don't have to worry about how well the bench is going to perform, because you can throw anybody out there and they're going to be just as good as the starting five, just as good as the ending five. So I feel bad for him trying to figure out who he wants to get out there to start the game, who he wants to get out there to close the game in a tight race. But he does have the luxury of he can pretty much pick any five he wants to put out there, and he doesn't have to worry. So that's kind of nice.
Some other interesting things that came out of the teleconference, we found out that Fred Cowgill has a new puppy. Isn't that wonderful? I knew you all were waiting for that earth-shattering news. We also found that Jeff Walls is an Iron Man. That's right. Before the actual basketball press conference got started, Coach proudly informed those in media listening that he had won an Iron Man competition amongst a group of his friends where you go out and play tennis and then you play golf. So it was only a 2-event Iron Man competition, but however, he did win the trophy, and he did post a picture of himself the next day on the internet, showing himself drinking coffee out of the cup that he won. Yeah. All right, Coach. I'm not big on either one of the two sports, so obviously I wouldn't be any competition for him. So But it was a lighthearted, kind of good ramble. Walls wasn't really upset about anything. He didn't have any points to make or anything like that. So he's still playing things a little bit close to best, though, which I guess is probably not a bad thing to do at this time of the year. We did find out several other things, fellas. We won't be playing the University of Kentucky this year in women's basketball. They just couldn't come up with an agreeable date. I'm sure that Matthew Mitchell would have loved to have been able to come in here and play in front of 3,000 fans, but I'm not thinking that that's the environment that we want to play him in, okay? Second of all, we also got some news that the Cards would be playing 20, count them, 20 conference games. That's up from 18. That's the normal slate on those. So I did notice that that was increased by 2, and that Walls let loose some very interesting information here. He said because of COVID, because of the possibility, let's say, hey, somebody may have to cancel out on this in the non-conference part of the schedule, or they may allow us to play maybe more non-conference games throughout it. He has a list of 10 teams that could be available within 48 hours to either have Louisville come to them or travel to Louisville to play as replacement teams should somebody have to cancel in the non-conference schedule. I thought that was pretty impressive.
It's
Pretty good homework, yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
So that going on, all good news certainly for Cardinal basketball. They started on the 25th when the Cards will, as we know of right now, go down to play Middle Tennessee. Always a good game against the Blue Raiders down there. Other news that we got, and I'm going to take a slight derivation now from UofL Women's Sports because I want to get this one in. But the guys and I were talking a little bit about Halloween before the broadcast, and I told them to think about this. You've had 15 minutes now, fellas, to think this over. And I'm going to start with Jared since he's the youngest, and his Halloween memories are probably the most fresh.
And he's the only one that said he has one.
Yeah.
So good to start with him. Give us an extra 30 or 45 seconds to make something up on the spot.
Case just threw a big wet spitball and hit the blackboard there. So Jared, what Halloween memory stands out, one that stands out memorable to you over the years?
Yeah, back in my days as a student for Halloween, there was a year I borrowed a costume from a buddy at church, and it was a full-on Sasquatch costume designed for somebody that's my height. So here I am walking around campus in this costume. I only had 1 or 2 classes that day, worked a little bit, but I had a lot of free time. I just walked around campus, and I was wearing this big old thing, and you get people staring at you from everywhere, like, what is this kid doing? And you scare a couple people here and there, and you go scare your friends, but it's also just kind of, you get a lot of people getting laughs out of it. And then music school used to do something every year, and they'd have a costume contest, and you could enter as free, and then they would announce the winner of the costume contest at the very well-known orchestra concert they do on Halloween every year. And that year I happened to win. So here I am up in the balcony. By then I was sweating, so I was half stripped of the costume, trying to throw it back on so everybody could see. But just to have some fun on Halloween and goof around. It was very nice.
It sounds like a great one. I'll give you guys just a little bit longer to think. I'll tell mine real quickly here. As shortly after graduation from college, a friend and I decided that we would go out and hit some of the local establishments, shall we say, dressed in costumes. I chose Fred Flintstone, and I was a life-size costumed Fred Flintstone. He decided to go as the gorilla. We hit several downtown establishments where we got quite a bit of recognition, and I got to hear the line more than once for my friend, "Do you want to monkey around?" Ooh, okay. And for me, I said yabba dabba do a lot and was considered to be pretty much an antique. Hey, that was mine. Jeff, you're on the bat. What you got?
So probably my best Halloween story was a few years back. Went to a party of at the time it was a coworker, and was hosting, and Another coworker arranged ahead of time to borrow some apparel because he was a very, very big Kentucky fan. So I went decked out in all things UK. Went to a party with a bunch of UofL fans, basically. Walked in head to toe UK gear. Even my socks had UK logos on them. Thanks to my coworker. I actually had one woman throw a cherry tomato at me. She was so upset. So, and my explanation was, it was the idea of Halloween is to dress up as something scary. So, there you go.
Oh, thank God it wasn't guacamole dip.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's a good one. That's a fantastic one. Okay, Case, I know you were kind of a little bit nebulous on this earlier. Didn't really have much except that you used to throw your candy in a sack and in a closet and hide it there until it got spoiled.
You stole it.
Is
That was
it?
the one I was going to go with.
Let's go in a little bit further in detail into if that's the one. First of all, why a sack instead of a Halloween bag?
Well, I was going to say I have quite a few Halloween memories that are not so family friendly from my days in college, but but the thing that stands out to me the most from all my years of trick or treating is we would always go over to a friend's house in a very much more walkable neighborhood, and it was a big neighborhood, and so you carry around a full size pillowcase. You got to be able to. You don't want to make stops. You don't want to come back to the house until you're done, right? So carry around something that can carry a lot of candy, and we got it pretty much full. And then we'd go back to the house and we'd sort out any candy we didn't want, trade if there were some that we liked or didn't like, just kind of throw out the rest because what's the point in hanging on to it if you're never going to eat it? In my case, could have just thrown it out all because I would take it home and I'd eat some over the next couple of days and tuck it in the wardrobe, and that's just where it would sit because it was I just wanted it out of the way. And then as it went into winter, get more Christmassy candy as you get towards that season, and you just forget about the Halloween candy. And come January, you look and you're like, there's a whole bag of candy. I don't really care about that. And February, you get Valentine's Day, and there's candy that goes along with that. And the Halloween candy just sits and becomes sad and more sad. And then next thing you know, it's getting close to summer. And you're like, well, I guess I should throw out this candy so I can start thinking about next Halloween. That's the way it would go. It would just be
memory I can think of. God,
I would eat some of the candy, but when you're talking about a whole pillowcase full, there's just no real time to eat all that candy without just absolutely destroying yourself. So
think of all the starving blood, sugar challenge people in China. You could have sent that to.
What I should have done is there's if anybody's watched it on Netflix, the new Adam Sandler movie, QB Halloween. He talked about how whenever he would come back with his candy, he would build a tower, and however big he could build the tower before it collapsed, that's the candy he would keep, and anything that didn't make it to the tower, he would donate to the homeless shelter or something. It was like, I didn't think of stuff like that when I was younger. Other people would have eaten that candy, not me. Not the closet. I wish the closet just ate it and it would just go away, but no.
Halloween this year that will, I think, may be markedly different than one we've ever seen. There's already been a lot of drive-through and trunk or treat and events like that. We don't plan on putting any candy out. We haven't in the last several years because we don't have a lot of kids around here. But I don't think you're going to see the amount of actual door-to-door trick-or-treating guys that we've seen in past years.
Yeah, we're actually, unfortunately, on COVID quarantine due to a risk exposure. So we're going to put out a sign that just says, sorry, no candy this year, kids. Since we've moved into the house, when we bought the house in 2018, we looked at it on Halloween. So we were here, the lights were on. People were like, trick or treat. We're like, we don't live here. There's no candy. They felt bad. Last year, I don't remember where we were, but we weren't home for Halloween, so no candy that year. So this will be the third year in a row, no candy at this house. So maybe just kids will stop coming. Who knows?
All good, all good. Other things real quickly before we get into some final thoughts, final things here. First of all, cross country had their ACC championships. I think the women finished either 12th or 13th in that. If you've got the details there, I don't have them right in front of me.
They were 12th and the men 13th.
13th for the women. So.
No, 12 for the women and 13 for the men.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, we improved. We beat the men. Not, obviously one of the best outings, but certainly one that a lot of potential, I think, arises toward with some of the runners that are on campus now. Also, kind of a bit of dubious news, fellas. I wasn't going to get into this, but I thought we might want to give it just a little bit of discussion before we get into final thoughts. We found out yesterday that Christine Herring, who was Jeff's gonna, comment on this, the senior woman athletic
Yeah.
administrator,
Yeah.
was
So
fired.
the title is technically Senior Woman Administrator, which just causes me to twitch when I think about the grammar of it.
So
So
it's a weird.
it
It's
is
like a
it's just
number
weird
of
title.
reasons that's a weird title.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, it's a little bit tangential to the main story here, but yeah.
Certainly a surprise to all of us. Something that was announced kind of out of the blue yesterday. No details were given on the firing, and she was not available for comment, according to her attorney. So she's ponied up on this one, legal up on this one. Certainly something, the kind of attention you really don't want for a program. We'll see how it develops and if there's any more that comes out on this. But kind of a surprising move after all the rounds to layoffs, fellas. I'll just take it around the table real quick and get your reaction to this kind of interesting news that happened yesterday. Jeff, what you got on?
Yeah, Christine. I've had some interactions with her. Not a lot, certainly not significant, but we've chatted on occasion, mostly volleyball matches. I have had no beef with her, but my interactions with her were very limited. I was a little surprised at this. She was a Tom Jurich hire back in the day, and obviously there's been some tensions over the past couple of years with people who came into the department under Jurich. So, there's some question whether maybe that factors into it. And I don't know. I don't have a clue. But there's a lot of folks that are in the department that can step up and take that role, I think, quite competently, and I think we'll see. We've talked a little bit offline about who we think it might be, but who will take that position. But yeah, it's positive things I think are in the future. But you hate to see that sort of tension happen to cause something like this.
Jared, the timing on this right near the end of most of the women's fall sports activities, I don't know, coincidental maybe, I'm not sure. Your thoughts on it?
Yeah, to me, it sounds like there's information that's not getting released. Maybe they're squaring away details, or maybe it's just something out of respect for both parties that they just chose not to release the details. But something's going on there, and I don't want to make any assumptions until they release more information. But Christine Herring had been a big part for women's athletics at UofL. She was crucial in helping form Title IX among UofL athletics. She stood up and defended athletics, especially from the women's standpoint. Back a few years ago, when men's basketball had a couple issues, and there were accusations that UofL was raising their athletes to view women in a poor manner, and she came to UofL's defense and fought that. So her accolades with UofL are above and beyond. So we'll just kind of wait to see how this plays out.
Case not given a chance to step down or resign, it was a firing. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't keep up with the kind of the administrative back of house stuff that much. Don't have as many interactions as most of you all do, but it is just unfortunate to see UofL entering into court again, as always is the case with these high profile firings. And like you mentioned, not given the opportunity to resign means it clearly wasn't something that they came to an agreement about. And so UofL just can't seem to keep themselves out of court. They're going to find themselves in it again here as they fight employment challenges, and it's just a bad time to be doing that, and a bad time to be in this situation. I guess from UofL's side, it's almost a bit rosy with the number of layoffs that have happened across the country, it's not like they're going to have a lack of candidates to choose from if they wish to fill the position, as kind of morose as that is. It just is the way that the business works, especially in a time of high unemployment in this field. So it'll be interesting to track going forward. I think it's kind of unfortunate for all the parties involved.
Absolutely. And not to make light or fun of the situation, but I'm not sure who she's going to go with as counsel or who she's gone with. I think we can rule out Perry Mason. I think we can rule out Matlock. However, I wonder if Darrell Isaacs has got his hand in this involved at all, guys. Let's see. Could be interesting. Film at 11. All right. Let's roll it on into some final thoughts here. Let's go ahead and start with Jeff this week. Jeff, what you got for me?
Yeah, a little bit of news about an engagement I wanted to shout out.
Just saw this one on Twitter.
I think you're probably thinking of a different one than I am. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you're probably thinking about Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, right?
I am. Yep.
Yeah. No, I was going to mention that in passing. But Asia Dore got engaged to her partner over the weekend, I believe. So, or yesterday, I believe. So, congratulations. I don't know her partner's name, unfortunately, but saw that on Instagram. So, congratulations to her.
Certainly so for AD. And hopefully she'll be able to come back strong for the Liberty season next year as well.
Yeah.
But congratulations, Asia. Go ahead and sink a 3 for her from 30 feet to make it all go well. All right, Case, what you got on your mind?
I was going to say, rest in peace, Sean Connery.
Oh, yeah.
News of his passing came out this morning. Also, I learned today that Halloween was John Candy's birthday. He would have been 70 today. So.
Oh, two giants in the industry. Real quickly, favorite Sean Connery movie? That's a tough one, isn't it?
I think my favorite Sean Connery content isn't actually Sean Connery. And it's the SNL Jeopardy skit.
I don't know, I'm a little older than you guys, but his role in The Untouchables with Kevin Costner was memorable for me. And of course, you can say what you will, but Sean Connery was James Bond. The hell with the rest of you. He was Bond, okay? All right, Jerry, what you got for me, buddy?
I don't really have much in terms of final thoughts. I'm not engaged, so you don't have to, nothing there. So no new.
Did you hear that, Katie? Are you listening?
Yeah.
She's still down with family for a couple more days.
Sure.
So just enjoying a couple nice, relaxing days. Other than the work, photography starting to slow down. So I guess I want to express my appreciation and gratitude to UofL this year for allowing me to come take pictures at some of the sporting events, especially with women's soccer and field hockey and volleyball. Since I went into the year not thinking I'd be taking pictures at anything, so I'm certainly very grateful for that opportunity.
And I will second that as well. And I know Case would as well, being allowed to attend events in the time where so many could not. We were actually fortunate enough to be able to get in there and actually do some coverage. And a great thanks to UofL for that, for sure. Final thoughts out of me. I want to give a special shout out to a 2021 UofL women's basketball signee, Peyton Verhulst, who decided this year, after a couple years absence, you know what I want to do? I want to play high school volleyball my senior year here. Well, boy, did she. She is on the Kansas 4A state champion Bishop Meads team. They won the title, and Peyton had the final kill to clinch the title for them. So another 2 sports star coming to campus. We'll wait and see. Could be interesting. But congratulations, Peyton. Proud of her. She comes from a great family, has great parents, and certainly, if you're going to decide to return to a sport, guys, that's a pretty good way to do it, and
Yeah,
take
that's
a
pretty impressive.
state championship. Yeah, very impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody have a great one. Have a happy Halloween. Unless you know something we don't, we'll be back with you next week here on the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast.